Hi, can you hear me, Nevin? Brilliant. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Desi Sportscast. Really good to have you join us again, and thank you for all the fantastic download support you're giving us on the podcast. Hundreds of you downloading it, so it'd be really good to build up this community as well. I know sometimes joining a live stream is not the easiest thing to do, but for those of you that are listening to us on the podcast, just get your questions to us because we've got fantastic people, as you know, and none more so than Nevin himself. Nevin, the man whose name is on the show. How are you, my friend?
All good, all good. It's been a very exciting week. Back to doing some work and just happy to be talking football, even though the football has not been that interesting. But happy to be here. Happy to be
Head
doing this on a Sunday again.
head in hands time for the past week, and we will get into that as to why. I think everybody knows why. But first of all, explain the shirt.
Oh, this is an old local of Jersey that I've been having. So I thought, everybody associates me as a Kerala Blasters fan, so might as well change things and tell, hey, I care about other clubs too. So here's me sort of saying, hey, I love Copeland as well. So
No, I
that's that.
like it. I like it. I've not seen it before, but it just goes to show if it's from a few years ago, your links to the club and your support for the not links, but support for the club over the years. But how's your week been? Before we get into the football world,
Uh, I think the week, I'm sure as a football fan, you will relate to this as well. I think football dictates our mood. And I think this week I was angry. I think that's the strongest sentiment that I had. I was just angry with how things are, and I was sort of happy that a lot of people did call out. People had just enough. They'd reached a tipping point and sort of spilled over, and a lot of us were like talking about what is going on with football, and that sort of reflected on things that I did. So I think me. Whenever I'm upset or something, I want to be obsessed with work. I want to take up a lot of projects and stuff. So that sort of pushed me to doing some projects, or sort of kickstarting a few projects for Kalpanda, and so that way it's been at least a productive week, and hopefully we'll start seeing the outputs from the next week onwards. So that's
uh,
nice, but footballing wise, pretty sad. How are things there?
well, it's a beautiful day today. It's October here, so it's not the usual weather we get, but so far it's been a fantastic weekend, really sunny, a little bit cooler, but the sun's out, so yeah, it's looking good weather-wise, but not footballing-wise. But before we get into Indian football, and I'll be honest, I don't know where to start with that, but we'll start somewhere. I just want to take your views on a couple of big stories that have happened here in England, and obviously the biggest one is one of the richest people in the world has decided to buy. I think it's a fantastic supported club. I love going to Newcastle, not only to the city but to the ground. Although you've probably heard it from hundreds of other people, but I can genuinely say if you can climb up those steps in one go without taking a break to the away end, you're fit. But your thoughts on Newcastle becoming the richest club in the world?
Happy for them, happy for the fans. I think considering what gone great. I think I'm happy that their supporters can now look forward to great football. But you don't really like this happening to you. Like it's just you don't want. You can call me a hypocrite because I can support a team that is also funded by a similar, if not same scale, but like a similar setup. But in some sense, I understand the fan point of view. That I understand. we deserve our shot as well. That's what Newcastle fans will be saying. Why can City exist? Why can Chelsea exist? And mind you, it's not like the clubs like Liverpool and United are not owned by big person. Now they probably don't have tie-ups to oil, or they don't come from a certain setup, but they're also rich folks and they're not trying to make money out of the club. It's just that they work differently. So I think as Newcastle fans, you'll just be elated right now. It's high time that they can start dreaming about winning titles and no longer about relegation scraps and stuff like that. I feel happy for the fans. I'm going to just sit back and sort of analyze what is going to happen. I want to see. Obviously, you expect them to come, throw a lot of money, get a lot of good players. But I want to see that really happen before I make a call. I don't know if they're going to approach it differently now that FFP and everything exists, at least on paper. Will they take it a little more, cautiously? Will they try? Even when City started off with the big funding, it was the likes of Stephen Ireland and those folks sort of driving the team forward. You had the Robinhos also coming in, but there was a transitional phase. Even Chelsea got a lot of these, Wayne Bridge, and Lampard went on to become a great signing, of course. But like they did, like Sean Wright Phillips, all those kind of star players as well, right? So I want to see what Newcastle does in the next 2 years. I think it's going to be interesting. It's also going to be a great opportunity for English players, I feel. Somebody like I know I don't want to lose Mason Mount from Chelsea, but somebody like a Mason Mount, those kind of players can really thrive in a setup like this, where they can really be the change makers for a fabulous club, like you said. So I mean, I'm supposed to be, as a journalist, be the skeptic here, but I'm a big fan of the gold movies. So I have this, I was just talking to my brother yesterday, and he's a big United fan, Manchester United fan, and both of us were saying, like, that we started following football together. He started watching Manchester United, and that's my entry to Premier League as well. So in those days, it's Kevin Keegan, and that is a Newcastle we know. They was fighting for the top four place. So it's not a club that we think is a bottom tier club. We've seen the Newcastle teams with Shearer and all those guys really dominate Premier League as well. So it's going to be very interesting. And both of us were genuinely excited for the club as well. It's good to see them back. Um, you know, uh, and I'm sure if that kind of money is coming in, they will be challenging for the trophy, top four spot. So it makes Premier League competitive. If you look at the larger picture as to what is happening to Premier League, I think that's a big conversation. I think that's a podcast on its own, because I think football has been sold out, and it's been sold out for quite a long time now. It's not
No.
because this thing happened in Newcastle. Or I think in the last 20 years, we've seen, multiple instances. We've seen City escape, we've seen PSG escape. So even despite all these regulations, football continues to belong with continues to be for people with money. But then you'll have your Leicester stories and your Isol stories just to keep that balance going. So we will see how this goes. I think unfortunately you and I have no control over how football is going to go, and I think this is the only way forward. They've understood there is money in it, there is glamour in it, and so they will continue doing it. So, and Saudi Group is such a big setup to, like, it's not even like you can expect them to be upset about the losses and walk away or anything. They're not going to do that. So,
No, this is the
so it's
difference
just enjoy
between
the ride now. It's
it
just
will be a ride, and it's going to make the
yeah.
January transfer window, the prices is going to be inflated for obvious reasons.
I was telling my friends, Chelsea offloaded a lot of players in the summer. I was telling my friends that they probably missed a trick.
Yeah.
If they were available in January, they would have, all these Tammy Abrams and Tomori, Guhi, all those guys would have gone for like a lot of money to Newcastle. But
And as you can imagine, the names already being bandied about as to who will go in January. Forget the long term. I think that's a dream at the moment. But in terms of January, some of the players like Lingard and Tassofsky from Burnley, but I think the big one will be who the next manager will be, because we know it's not going to be Steve Bruce. I do feel for him. But like you said, the people that I'm really happy for are the Geordies. They're absolutely wonderful, wonderful people. Really genuinely nice and friendly and welcoming. And
No, but Bharat, just explain the politics there. Isn't Newcastle sort of a pro Brexit sort of a space? So how do they be open to such an idea of a Saudi takeover?
I don't think Brexit was, well, if you want to get into it, Brexit was about not allowing. I think the main topic was not about immigration. Let's be blunt. It was about immigration, taking back control. But when it comes to football ownership and people bringing money into your club, which is going to hopefully translate into success, I think people will overlook any thoughts they might have of foreign owners. I think, I mean, at the moment, they had Mike Ashley. He's an Englishman, but he's been hated hugely by the Geordies for 5, 10 years now. And he was one of them. He was a big Newcastle fan. He used to stand in
Yeah.
the sit in the stand with the supporters before it became unsafe for him. So they've had that, but I think when it comes to your own success or money coming into area, your politics goes out in a way. You look at your personal
So
feelings
you're
and
more
what's
threatened by somebody working in the workshop or somebody working in a supermarket than somebody,
well,
taking over a.
well. I don't know if you've seen the stories, but now it's coming home to roost in terms of the huge shortages we've got with drivers in the care sector, in the
Yeah,
retail
I think so.
sector, in the farming sector. Huge, huge. Because people, I better not say too much because of who I work for, but if local people don't want to do certain jobs, you have to rely on immigration. And I don't think a lot of people who voted for Brexit had understood this. So if they did, they weren't aware because there's most people that voted Brexit that don't want to do these jobs. And they're not low paid jobs, but they're not jobs that they want to do. Work in logistics, the warehouses. We had that was pretty much run on Eastern Europeans. Our farms are work based on European labor. The poultry sector, that side of farming is heavily reliant was heavily reliant on Eastern Europeans. So yeah, that's having that is definitely coming to roost now at the moment, and you can see now in it's a really big supermarket near me that we go use, and empty shelves. I mean, basics like water, essentials, because they just can't get them in. There's no drivers. You know what? We had a fuel shortage for over 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I
man.
can get my car fuel for 8 days, and I live near a big flagship filling station. So,
Wow.
and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Even the government has said that. So we'll see. But going back to football,
Football. Yeah.
like I said, I think the big question will be as to who the new manager will be. But I don't think also, if you look at the PSG scenario, that was very different because they're a one club league basically. This isn't.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be easy for Newcastle. And also because Newcastle of where it is in the northeast, it's not London, it's not a capital city, and it's
Yeah.
not got the huge success history of the Liverpools and the Uniteds. So it's not going to be as easy as what people think. So we'll see how it pans out. But it certainly makes for a very interesting Premier League as well. It's always is, but even more now that potentially we've got these owners who've got 300 billion loss, and profit and loss is not too much of an issue when it comes to. I think this is more marketing. But you must have also heard other Premier Leagues have raised objections to this takeover, and all of a sudden they've grown a conscience, and they've decided that the Saudi owners are possibly not fit and proper. Do you think that should come into it at all? Although we know it, there's a lot of examples where it hasn't. But do you think Saudi Arabia is that exception? Because we've got Chinese owners. They own
Yeah,
Wolverhampton.
exactly.
They have Aston Villa. They've got big shares in that. They're buying up huge chunks of infrastructure.
See,
But
in an ideal scenario, yes, this should bother us. But then why are we playing a World Cup in Qatar? Then I mean, there are multiple questions. How does this one instance bring out all these emotions in you when otherwise you're just okay, don't care. Even Chinese investment, if you don't really talk about it, we've had multiple instances of Muslims call out, genocide and multiple cases allegedly against them. So, if you want to, you can't just be cherry picking scenarios just to suit your conscience. It has to be even. If something is bothering you, call out every time, not just when Saudi money is coming into a league and uh, you know supposedly going to knock you off your perch. So I don't really buy that argument, and but I am happy. I mean, I don't really care about football management per se, in terms of they will obviously do what it takes. So one day they're thinking of a super league, next day they'll come out and say we care about fans, tomorrow they'll do another thing. I would be really happy if players came and talked about it. So that's when you know that it's affecting them. So even with the Super League, it's when these Hendersons and everybody came out and said, "Hey, we're not really cool with it." That is going to make a difference. So I would be excited if a player is going to come out and say, "Hey, I'm really concerned, and I will not go play for that team because I know how they make their money. They've got blood in their hands. Brilliant." Now that I'll take seriously. Managements and the organizations and everyone using this, I'm not. I mean, as if anything is clean money. Anybody beyond, and I believe anybody richer than certain limits have all got some levels of, you know, uh, wrongdoing in their hands. So it just depends on what the scale is. So I don't really think a Chelsea can go and say, "Hey, Saudi, you can't you can't possibly be doing this." So I mean that's my standpoint. So I don't care what Chelsea management says about it. I would be happy if, say, Mason Mount comes and say, "Hey, listen, I don't think I want to go play for it, or the specific club, whatever, but I don't think my conscience will allow me to." So that I'll take seriously. Another player coming out and saying that, I'll take seriously.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's a bit hypocritical when all of a sudden they grow a conscience and, when it suits them. But yeah, really interesting news. I know it's gone through with, despite these oppositions. I think it will go
We've
through.
already got Telegram groups here in Kerala, Newcastle fans
Is it building up?
association. It's again. We had it last year, and then I remember I was part of one group because it became like a fun cultural thing. Everybody was there. Everybody was, and it was like big things like they were going to sign Ronaldo and Messi and all that. So and that group had become Atlanta fans midway through, because I think the group admin decided that, "Hey, Atlanta plays good football. I don't want to go that route." So now it's back again. Now it's back to being
Uh,
Newcastle. And
well,
I'm really happy because I don't know if you know about Souvik, who is the media manager of FC Goa. He's a
okay.
big Newcastle fan.
Oh, right. Okay.
And yeah, I think I saw a tweet from him saying, "Oh my God, this is finally over," or something of that sort. And I was like genuinely happy for the guy. Oh my God, you are the only Newcastle supporter that I know, and I'm really happy for you.
Oh, there's going to be a few turning up everywhere in the world, not just in India or
Yeah.
Kerala. But yeah, look forward to how that pans out. But moving on
And
to,
sorry, I just a lot of my friends and we were really mad about Ronaldo in Kerala. So a lot of them have Juventus jerseys who now suddenly starting to look like Newcastle jerseys as well. So yeah, also
well, just to give them a history lesson, that shirt was based on Notts County, so not on the Newcastle one. But yeah, I get the point, and we will be seeing a lot more
even
black
the
and white.
Juventus story is that they had ordered a pink jersey and that they got
Yeah,
uh, the white and black in return.
yeah, the Notts County. I think it's something to do with the Englishman that was there at the time. But yeah, we'll see how that pans out, and it adds more interest to the Premier League. And certainly, I'm looking forward to the January transfer window now, and even more the summer window next year. Because if they do get one of these marquee signings, well, the Premier League is just going to continue to rise. Um,
It'll be interesting if they get relegated to
I think that's why they'll be spending money in January to avoid
January,
that.
just to
Yeah, they will be buying, but I think they'll be buying British players, to get him through that. But I think they'll probably get a manager before Christmas to give him that January window, and then set him up for the summer. Yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. But happy for the Geordies. I just want to ask you a question that's going to lead into our main topic. But who do you think is the manager that has underperformed, Martinez or Stimac?
wow, this is actually tough. I mean, CMAC, obviously, because he's not performed at
We're gonna come to that, but you know why I'm asking this, because
yeah,
against
why?
Belgium, with the talent and the so-called golden generation, this was meant.
Why is Martinez ever rated? I thought he's sort of failed everywhere he's worked. And
Apart,
then he got to work with the golden generation of Belgium. I don't think they'll ever have that kind of a set of footballers again.
no,
And then he never delivered, and the sort of odd usage of players. He just went. He thought football was so easy that you can just put a formation in those players, and they almost did. Regardless of his bad coaching, there's so much talent that they still almost got them a trophy here and there. But yeah, it's so sad to just see them have no answers. But and I think the golden generation is past it now. So
you
the
don't.
defenders are out.
You think that Qatar will be 1 year too much for some of these players?
Sometimes it happens that it's past the golden generation that they win something. So it could be like that, where they pull off a few strings and luck goes their way, whatever, and they go and win something. But I do feel the defense is too weak now with the likes of Vertonghen and Alderweireld. All of them have company. All of them have sort of passed. That generation is over, and they've not really replaced with top class defenders. So that's also always going to be a big problem for I think um, Belgium, and I think Hazard struggling with injury. De Bruyne still an excellent player, but I still feel even he some 2 years ago was at his prime, and now I think he's still managing himself and he's not playing a lot of matches and stuff. Lukaku is there. I think Lukaku is still there. I think he's got another 2 3 years in him. But it's that Belgium team used to be full of stars, like
Yeah.
11 stars used to be playing.
Well,
Now
they've
it's
got
just
6 or 7. You could say.
yeah. Now, I mean, I know Tielemans and all of them are really good players, but it doesn't like they're not that level of
Yeah. If you're
amazing
talking about
footballers.
world
Yeah,
class, yeah,
yeah,
they're not there yet.
yeah.
But it was,
So
it was, it, it was. I saw the game live, and being 2-0 up, I thought finally, although they still got to play Spain in the final, I thought finally. I did not see the French come back, but it was a fantastic comeback as well. And look at the talent they've got, and it's younger than the Belgium talent. So yeah, I do feel for the
oh,
Belgians.
France is sorted for another 10 years. Unless
Then,
they screw up because of some politics or bad coaching or something, they've got so much talent there. It's just unbelievable.
yeah, but they went through a similar thing that we did in England after the debacle about 15, 20 years
In
ago.
the
They had
2000s.
and they had a
Yeah.
huge commission set up, and the French did as well. Then they set up their, and it took them 10 years to get to this stage, if not longer, to start producing
Yeah.
these players. And you can see England is doing that now as well. Which brings me
Yeah,
to,
they're playing. Yeah.
our beloved nation and the performances this week. Is it time for Stimac to
There's a
go?
match today as well, while we're
Well, I'm not
recording
looking
this.
forward to it.
I'm not even bothering to watch.
I will watch it. I'm not sure if it's the IPL against it or something like. I will watch it. I don't know how much of it I'll watch, but I will watch it. But I think we've said it before. Well, I've sort of backed Stimac, give him time. But I think, regardless of the result today, regardless of the result against Maldives, and if we sneak into the final and win that 4-5-0, I think it's time for him to go.
Oh, I think we've decided that I think they locked them back as well, and I think they missed the point by not sending youngsters and sending a full-fledged team to the SAF tournament. They should have actually built, given this as an opportunity, taken this as an opportunity, fielded some youngsters. They went with the age-old Chetri Vedanta route. They're not. I mean, no disrespect to Chetri. There's a limit to what one person can do, and
And I can see his
I think
frustration on the pitch, Chetris. He shows
yeah,
when he's pressing,
yeah,
he's on his own, and you can see him.
yeah. And he's still, I think, one of the most fit players in that
Yeah.
squad. He's ready to play 90 minutes. It's just,
But where do we go now? It's a big question,
I,
I know. But this week, like you said, a lot of people have now started calling it out for what it is. It's time for change.
I mean, it's been time. I don't think Cinemax is the answer, unfortunately. I don't think just replacing is going to give you the
No,
results as
it's
well.
not.
Because it's why are we only taking players from ISL? That's a big question, right? So these kind of blatant. problematic approach. Simak has had, like I think somebody was pointing it out on Twitter, he's had to work with the smallest pool ever because he's been told to only pick from ISIL. And not that he cares, or I don't think he even bothers watching, but just hypothetically, he's got such a small pool to work with. And on top of it, so that really means you know, an I League player, an Anwar Ali, who's playing for
He's
Delhi as
back.
well. He's
Good to
playing
see
really
him back.
well. Yeah, good to see him back. So, I mean, he deserves a shot in the national team. What is stopping you from doing
Well,
it? Do you want a team to buy him first, get him into the ISL, and then say ISL has produced Indian football team again? The blatant privatization and the buying off of the federation of the national team, it's ridiculous. It's puke. You sold football, you sold the soul of the sport, and now you are like acting surprised that this is happening. A lot of us thought this exact scenario we predicted in 2016, and everybody called us as pessimist and unhappy that legacy clubs are not being treated well. All sort of name calling we had to go through, and we were saying the exact same thing. Now the ISL clubs are struggling. They're saying we don't have money. How long can we keep taking this? How can we keep doing? So they've cut short on their facilities. A lot of them have disbanded their reserve teams. What have you done to football in this country? What is happening? There is a sham of a I-League qualifier. Not good enough. You need more matches. It's not just a qualifying. I-League is too small. ISL is too small. Where do our teams play football? Where is a youth league? Where is a reserve league? Where is a women's league? My God, we don't even talk about women's football in
no.
this country at
There's so much
all.
wrong with the
So
men's setup that we can't even get round to
yeah,
the women's setup.
exactly. And it's so sad because they deserve it. There's
Yeah,
a
oh yeah.
match today, and I'm getting to know it through AFF President's tweet. And there's no coverage, there's no tweet on the, the Twitter account doesn't update scores. You have to rely on one journalist giving us some outputs. And
But
then they come with this bizarre explanation that it was behind closed doors, so we can't tweet. I mean, that's the craziest closed doors match I've ever heard about. That you don't talk about.
but
You
when
can
the
talk about,
AFC comes, they'll be there in the stands
of course,
taking
that
all the
happens all the time.
plaudits.
So I'm
But
telling you, this is a case of um, a weed, a grass, for example. You can keep cutting things on the top, but it's still going to grow back. Unless you pluck off the root, there's no way, and you need to replant something. That's the solution. And there's been a recent development of Kerala following AF model, and they've sold out for 10 years now. Kerala football has been sold to a private party. What is going on?
what's
Somebody will
happened
need
in
to
Kerala?
investment. So they've sold the next 10 years rights to a private party, and now they will be managing the federation. So why do we have an elected body if they're going to sell it off to somebody else? This is happening across the country as well, right? Like Air India is now come to Tata's. So it's just, I don't know what is happening for us. It's just crazy. Then why do we elect people if you're going to sell it to a private party? I mean,
I'll be honest. I've got nothing against in some sectors the private sector being there. You need the private sector. I mean, I'm from
yeah,
that
of
thought,
course, yeah, yeah.
but
Not some.
not in sports. Not in sports.
See, I still feel you
The
can
fa-
always lease it. You can always, subcontract it to improve efficiency of some departments that is struggling. This is different from giving it away for 10 years,
yeah,
15
yeah,
years,
yeah,
20 years.
yeah.
What are you doing? And just washing your hands off and eating your salary and tax-based money. Then why do we need you?
True, true.
Then
Yeah.
why is the Kerala Federation there? You can disband yourself. We will just might as well give the taxpayers money to a private company. Let them do something. At least they would probably feel more responsible with it than you clearly are.
But I think
It's just
with STMAC, the federation president needs to resign. I'm going to call it out. It's going to be impossible, but he needs to go. And I think because all of this is under his reign that's happened, it's not. I know, but you've got to say what it is, and I can say it here. But he needs to resign. They need to have a thought out, maybe even by Supreme Court judges who's tried to sort out the BCCI, and bring in some genuine football-loving people at the top. Has to, and it's not going to be an easy next few years. Even if you were to start tomorrow, it's not. But I mean, that is it's sort of like wishing.
It's shambolic. It's shambolic.
Do you, do,
I mean, you don't
have
even
we
have to
got?
do anything. If at least your national team has proper scouting and is allowed to pick players from different leagues and allowed to work with them for a longer period, at least this will be over. At least these problems with the national team will be over. At least with Constantine, that is happening a little bit. We all had problems with Constantine. I don't want to, talk about Constantine like everything was
You're not
a
saying
good
bring back
season.
Constantine, are you? You're not starting that campaign.
But I mean, as journalists, it's very difficult, so that is fine. But just have a project. I don't even want a foreign coach at this moment. If
I
you
don't
are
think
like
so. No.
going to somebody who's ranked 205, you don't need bring Khalid Jamil for all you care, and give him a project and give him 1 or 2 years. Allow them to work through the ranks.
But
Just sad, but it's just I see. I put out a Twitter poll the other day asking what is to be done, and I
yeah.
ran out of options. You know how many options can you put on a Twitter poll? There's no options. Just and everybody is saying saying the administration needs to change and everything else needs to get better. But the problem is the administration itself is not merit based. It's like elections. So it's as political. So if the opposition is going to come in, which is going to be like a rebel party, considering how the things are set up, we need to be a rebel for this regime to topple. I'm surprised I'm using words like regime and all that. But for it to topple, we need a rebel. And if you look at across the world, rebel groups have not always been successful at doing things that they promise, right? So
Mm.
I don't think that administration change is going to be as easy as people assume it to be. No, it won't be.
No.
It's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be like what Catalonia versus Spain is going. It's not that scale, but it's going to be very difficult. It's going to take a lot of effort and all that. But I don't want the teams and players to struggle meanwhile. So
No,
let
but
the other things in
don't you
place.
think the current batch we've got in the national team are also accountable?
Of course, of course. What are they doing?
Yeah.
They thought that they could just walk through Sri Lanka, I guess. The attitude was wrong, and the execution was wrong.
No, but
A lot of good chances being
in the
missed.
sense that come today or the game against the Maldives, or even in the next stage of the AFC qualifiers, they're going to be there. I don't think there's any risk for the majority of being dropped, is there?
That is a problem because you can only pick from an ISL, right?
Mm.
So if you've empowered the coach and the coach knows what he or she is doing, I want the coach to say, "You all are out of my team. Get out. I'm going to get a new set of players who's going to work hard. Like look at Hyderabad FC for example. They got a lot of youngsters and they really play good
No, but
football.
the problem with
Make
that,
them fight for the national
but
team.
the problem with that, Brendan, is they'll go back to their ISL clubs. They'll pick up their wage, and which is a very good wage from what I hear, and not care. It seems there's no pressure on them to
So
perform.
that's great, right? So if they want to go back and not care about national team, those are the people we don't want in national team. Let them be happy earning their money. I mean, I also earn money and I don't pay for national team, so that doesn't mean I'm wrong. So if that's all they care and if they don't feel the pride wearing the national team jersey, then they don't belong there. That's as simple as that. Even though I've had my insiders tell me that there are problems within the camp, a lot of players are unhappy with the training that's being offered. The lack of these are top players of the country, right? So you can't just give them random training. You need to have more specific. You need to know what is the strength of a Chetri, a Sahal. You can't just be giving random. So there's the lack of preparation from the coaching side has been called out by a few players. This is inside information. So yeah, could be that also. The reason why they're not playing well could be really down to
They're
bad
in their
coaching.
comfort
Yeah,
zone as well.
yeah.
They need to be taken out of their comfort zone. There needs to be some sort of, I don't know what it is, but in terms of where do we start, and we've talked about the coach, we've talked about the federation, but if there's
I'll tell you, Bharat, it's like every time there is a problem in UK, every time there's a problem in France, every time there's a problem in Belgium, in Germany, what do? They come up with that 10, 15-year plan
hmm,
to change the
I thought the
situation, right?
FDSL and ISL was that. Our equivalent.
No, and it's not even ISL. We've had before also. We had, I think, Vision 2020.
Hmm.
There was a program with the Dutch government as well. Netherlands, that's when the Kovermans and everybody was involved with Indian football. They had some Dutch thing as well. Lakshya 2022 or something. That was a project.
Right.
So, what happened to our footballers? Nobody to question, nobody. No journalist. Because there is no journalist who worked back then still working with Indian football. Everybody just got out. There's no point sticking to this. No publisher wants to write. So I wanted to write about a few things, and I'm struggling to find a publisher. There are no publishers. Literally, nobody wants an Indian football story. And then I realized that okay, I need to change my game. Otherwise, I'm going to be like, without money at the end of the day, right? So I'm also looking at like athletics or cricket or whatever, just to get my stories published. There's no takers for Indian football.
But that was going to
So
be my other point. That I was thinking, and this made me really think this week's performance. And can we? Are we expecting too much? Because when you look at team sports, cricket, where the federation is a world power. All three formats, we're in the top two and contenders every single time. Hockey, fair play to the federation. It's not the best, but it's in over that 10-year period. We've got to the stage where we're in the top four and came away with a bronze, and things are looking up. And you can see the support the women's team is getting as well. Same in the cricket. The women's team, I think, are performing incredibly well in Australia, and they did really well here in England despite problems. That as a nation, we are going to struggle because other federations are doing well. The football is not going to get a look in. It's just going to be a mountain, and we should get
and
used to
that
that.
is what they are paid for. It's like I launch a brand of biscuits. There is already five different brand of biscuits. I can't just sit there saying, "Oh, my biscuit is never going to
I
succeed."
rather, I'll be honest with you, I rather watch Kabaddi than
It
ISL.
is true. Kabaddi, hockey.
Mm.
I don't know. I didn't really watch a lot of volleyball when that league happened, but a lot of people were big fans of that volleyball league. Uh, I would definitely watch Sarah Nehwal or a PV Sindhu playing badminton for sure. It's
Mm.
much more interesting than seeing an Indian national team play football. So there are so many sports about them. They need to understand and not behave like IPL. They need to understand that the sport is so far behind. They're struggling to, hold. I use the word hold knowingly, hold Sri Lanka to a draw. So it's that bad. It's just.
I just see you
So
saying it's just depressing that we hold Sri
it is
Lanka,
distressing, and
and
I
we
think
we couldn't beat a 10-man Bangladesh team. Shots
it's
on
just the
goal, I don't
reality.
know. I don't have the stats, but I was looking at the stats, and one shot against Qatar. I mean, that's a sort of expected. Only four
Qatar is
shots when
expected.
we beat against Bangladesh 2-0. We only had four shots on target, and it
And I
just
was looking through Sri Lanka's results. That is, they had to play South Korea and everyone in the past. So at least I think they know the reality. So they played South Korea. They probably prepared really well, thinking, okay, India's going to be tough. So
and
all
and,
the
and I think
other
these FIFA rankings, for us, it's because I think we play more games, so we get accumulate more points. But there's not a gap of 100 places between us and Sri
But
Lanka.
I think the second 100 is that there is no difference between 150 and 120.
But there
There
should
is no
be.
difference between 100. But I think once you reach that level,
No, but what did
the
we say at the start of this tournament? We said we should be at a level where we should be competing in the Central Asian with the Uzbekistans and
I
what
never
have you.
said
No,
that.
I said, and we should be sending the under 23s to SAF and still win comfortably 2-3-0, maybe lose the odd game, but that's where we should be. But we're absolutely nowhere near that.
I would I would rephrase that a little. I would say go to SAF with an under 23 and battle it out. I'm not saying make it comfortable. I just battle it out, and that is what it should have been. And previously, that was what it was, which is why it's even more strange with all this ISL and everything that has changed Indian football. Why we moved backwards? Then our under 18 should be going. No, if our football is improved,
Send the
I in
arrows.
under 18. Yeah, send the arrows, whatever. So it's just, yeah, it's so blatantly obvious. It's like written in front of on the wall. but I refuse to read it. It's just
Do you think?
sorry.
Do you think if ISL is going to be behind closed doors? That's definite now, isn't it? This upcoming
Yeah.
season. Do you think that the federation would be happy to have closed door competition every single year because they don't care?
I think the clubs will care because they
But
need the money. I mean, I talked to happen to hang out very close. I mean, the place where I hang out usually is so close to Kerala Blasters office that I keep meeting these guys more often than not. So, I mean, they, for example, are really unhappy. There's no fans to tap into. There's no money. When you're already making a lot of losses and there's no ticket sales or no merchandise sales, and merchandise is another topic that we need to discuss. They've priced it so badly that nobody's going to buy them also. So, I mean, Bharat, it's just a very simple question. Who is running these things? Like, what are you thinking? How can you be so clueless? How can you be so, you know, how? I'm not even saying you need to be an expert or anything. If
no,
you follow the sport for 5 years, I'm not even saying you need to know for 20 years. If you follow the sport for 5 years, you would make better decisions. What are you like? I want to see this.
but there
I
should
want
be.
to smoke what you're smoking. It's that. Exactly. It's just, what are you thinking, guys? Like, what? Why are you pricing a jersey at 1,500 rupees a day when 98% of Indians don't earn that much a day? What are you trying to do? And there's so many things like this that as content creators, you can't use 3 second clip from any of these football
When
matches
they should
unless
be
you're paying 3
desperate,
crores.
when they should be desperate for coverage, you'd think
So
any
nobody
help.
does. Nobody does. Tell me
Yeah.
one content creator. There's nobody. Nobody make me any videos on ISL. Like, whatever. You guys go. Why should I lose my account simply because I care about football? I don't. I'll make something else. So it's just you have like whatever is the wrong path. It's that there's a signboard saying this is the wrong path, and I think our people are like, oh, there's a signboard. Let's go this way. It's just really, really bad. I'm laughing at this point because I think I'm no longer so invested.
Do you know? Do you know? My worry will be a little bit what's happening with Ole at United. He comes under pressure, pulls out an incredible win or a good win, and then he's fine. So we will probably win 5-0 today, and people will think, "What are these two talking about?" What's wrong? And then we'll beat
Give him a
Maldives
longer
2-1,
contract.
go to the final, win that 2-0 against whoever's there, and everything's rosy again. Or
I
do
think
you
it's
think
reached a
this time,
point. I think
people?
it's reached a point where at least there is no Bruno Fernandes bailing. I don't think there's a Bruno Fernandes in this Indian team. So it's reached a point. I think to expect even that 5-0 to happen is
No, no. I'm just saying that
really unlikely.
yeah.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, but it's come to a point where now defeat is actually, or like drawing is actually expected, and victory is not what you're expecting. So it's just sad. So
Do you think?
if you win, people will be like, okay, whatever.
But do you think it's got to the stage this week? And I saw the comments and a lot of people that it'll be very difficult for the federation to keep Stimac, or will it be very easy for them to keep Stimac?
Does the federation care? Oh my God, there's a bad lighting. Sorry. So it's raining cats and dogs outside.
I can hear it. It's nice to hear. Oh wow, that was a close one. There you go. You hear it live.
Yeah,
The weather in Kerala.
yeah. I've just like disconnected my laptop. Anyway, so I'm sorry, I just forgot
Now I
what
was
I was
saying,
saying.
you said the federation doesn't care whether they keep Stimac or not. They don't care.
Yeah,
Because
because
can you
if they
imagine
really
if England
cared,
had those two results here? I mean, yesterday they played Andorra, but England's so good at the moment. But just back, can you imagine the press fury at It would be huge.
yeah, there is no press.
Fury.
You see the press talking about India.
By the
So
way, I
there is
don't
no
know,
press
but
fury here. That is,
does Stimac and the captain or any of the players do pre and post press conferences?
yeah, yeah, press conference was there.
But
But nobody asks him tough questions. You are not allowed. If you do ask a question, that's your last press
you won't
conference.
be invited again.
You're not going to get another. Yeah. So
Goodness me.
why bother? Either you attend, write down whatever they say, or don't bother at all. I've not attended a press conference in ages. So I mean, what is even the point?
I saw an advert today. Federation's looking for a media convener or something. Put your CV in, my
They
friend.
desperately need one. No way. No way.
Get into
You
inside.
might
And
as well just like run. No way. No way.
I don't know. I don't know. I
There
was.
was a point, I think, some 3 years ago when I did want to do it. Um, when I thought there was some, potential to do it and stuff. And I realized I'll just get really wasted in that organization. Won't be able to do what kind of work I want to do. Bye bye.
But you know, give give me some positives. We have to get this podcast on a positive end, in the sense that there's no
I'm
positive.
not giving any positive. I'm sorry. Let's talk about something else. Yeah, Chelsea is doing okay. That's a positive. But there's no positive at all. There's really no positive.
Oh, there's no light at the
I'll
end
tell
of
you,
this tunnel.
in terms of, I'll tell you the positive is that football is going on despite all this, and I think that's incredible. And I think beyond a certain level, beyond the professional leagues, people don't know about all this. People know that football is a beautiful game, and people are going out there and playing it to forget, run away from their sorrows, run away from the troubles in the family, and that is what the sport is about. And sometimes people forget it. People forget that this is at the essence a few boys, a few girls forgetting a lot of things and enjoying the moment. And I think that's still there. That's still, if you go out there and look at football, it's still there. Unfortunately, it's not climbing up the ladder. And so, I mean, I was just talking to a few friends in Kovalam. I was just asking what the football scene is there, and they're excited. There's a local tournament coming up, and they're all geared up for it. And they don't care. They don't care if Steve Matt is the coach. They don't care if X, Y, Z is the president or secretary, whatever.
And that's
They only care about.
understandable. That's totally understandable.
Yeah, so they're just excited to go play football, um, and strangely enough, um, they've named themselves after top teams, so they're actually United, Chelsea's, and all that, and they're going to play a local league there. So I'm happy, and I think I personally have become that journalist who now want to focus only on that grassroots. I don't want to talk about national team again. It's
It's
just a
depressing.
waste of my time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting to, and when we met first time, I was wearing very dark rose tinted glasses, and that tint has faded over the past 2 years to the extent that I don't know if it's almost clear now. But
You should
yeah.
ask if there's a replacement for it. A new pair of glasses, maybe. But yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll see what happens today, later today, against Nepal. Like I said, they've had a couple of good wins. Maldives in their home stadium. It's not going to be easy. So we'll see what the Indian team and the coaching staff bring to us. But just moving on in terms of the Premiership and the gap that we've had, you say you're very happy where Chelsea are.
I'm not exactly very happy. I'm just trying to look for positives. But you put me in a spot. So, but right now, with the league position, you can't really complain. But I've seen tendency of this Chelsea becoming like the Conte's Chelsea, and which was a
The
bit
top of
sad.
the league,
Like
you
I
can't
thought
be
this was sort
anything
of.
but, surely.
But, I mean, I kind of like that Chelsea, so I won't be extremely dissatisfied if Chelsea goes back to 10 men defending. That is how I that's how I've learned to like that team. But it was nice to see Werner active. I really feel for that guy. I think he tries a lot on the pitch, so I was happy that he was involved in a goal and really,
But
seemingly striking a partnership.
I mean, this show always turns into a Chelsea show eventually, whether you're on
Yeah,
it or
eventually it
whoever's on
has
it.
to.
But
But do you really want to talk about Leicester right now? What is the scene there?
I was just finishing on Werner, but I saw him for national team as well, Germany, and whenever I see him
Yeah.
play for Chelsea as well, and it seems to be back to last season, he just doesn't look confident. the way he
finished.
looks, and he just doesn't, come across as that he's going onto a
And the
pitch.
strange part is he probably can change a club, find the right coach, and he'll start scoring 30, 40 goals a
Do you
season. He's
think,
got that in him.
or did you
I
think he
think
had that one
he's
or two seasons that really in Germany
I
before?
think this is similar to what happened to Torres in Chelsea. Something went off, and suddenly these guys just can't score. They're still making the runs. They're still making getting into really good positions and stuff. But that final end product is missing, and I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes it comes back. Sometimes it doesn't come back. You remember Michu, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah,
Swansea. What a brilliant two seasons he had, and he sort of
yeah.
disappeared. So, I mean, with footballers, you can't really predict. But I think Werner is doing everything there. It's just that the composure for finishing is just missing. Once
Mm,
he's in the, it's just like the energy is drained out of him. He just makes the most obvious choice. There's no fake. There's no,
mm.
that final product is missing. I don't know. Maybe you can hire like a Chelsea can give him like a specific trainer, get somebody like a Thierry Henry sort of a person just to work around. You need somebody who's played similar roles, and that will probably change him. Maybe not with Chelsea. Sometimes players don't work out in certain setups, so he can move on. Maybe if he goes back to Germany, I think he'll find more space. Maybe to a Dortmund, once Haaland makes a move, or maybe Nagelsmann would want him in Bayern. Who knows? So then he'll probably go back to scoring again.
And I also want to take your views on this because he came up last week after Mo Salah scored that incredible goal against Man City, and there was a lot of conversations afterwards here on forums, and I think it was even on the Sky Sports coverage that he doesn't get the credit he deserves because it's always Harry Kane here as the number one striker and the best striker, and in top three or top four in the world. Where do you stand on that?
Uh, Talk about who exactly?
Between Mohamed Salah, do you think he's the best striker in
Salah.
the
Okay.
world? Because there was
Um,
questions that he doesn't get enough credit here because of Harry
Of
Kane.
course, I agree. That I don't think he gets the same kind of credit. And I don't think it's necessarily due to Kane. I think it's partly because where he plays, because he comes from a wing and he's not your out and out striker. I think a lot of people think he's a midfielder, wide forward, and so he's seen in that category. But I think the way he's played this season, it's messy levels of output and really direct football. I think he's a fabulous footballer and one of the greatest the last 2 3 years for sure. And I don't think it's that. I think Kane sort of fits the bill for what we expect in a striker. He is tall. He can hold the ball. He will put his head when it's required. He can get nasty if he wants to. So, in some sense, Kane is what you would expect in a striker. But modern football has changed so much. A lot of teams don't even need that, pivot or that target man. And to be fair to Kane, I don't think he's just a target man. I think he can dictate. He can do so many things. He's a fabulous footballer in himself. But I think a lot of these things have changed. We need to accept that Mo Salah's output, not just the trickery and what he brings. A lot of people are saying that he's not good enough to even be compared to Hazard. I think that's absolutely wrong. Hazard, again, brilliant footballer, brought the joy back to football. You enjoy watching Eden Hazard in full flow.
Oh, he's a
But Mo
legend
Salah's
for
got
Leicester
out.
fans.
Sorry.
He's a legend even for Leicester fans.
Yeah,
He
of
scored that
course.
equaliser.
So yeah, and so I think Mo Salah is also clinical. He scores
Yeah.
way more goals and brings a lot more assists as well. So credit to him. It's not been an easy ride for him as well. Came to
Mm.
Chelsea as a potential star, didn't get the opportunity. Had to go to Roma, make a name. And it's not even like in Roma he was this level. He's just switched it on when he came to Liverpool. Just
Mm.
brought his A game. So and I think he's the first footballer I know from Egypt, and to be there and
Oh, at this level, without a doubt. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
At this
that
level,
level.
yeah. I mean, he's one
So
of those players that even other teams, if Egypt are playing, will want to watch Mo Salah. He's
this
got
is the
that
thing.
level.
There is I think Carlos Queiroz is now Egypt's coach,
Yeah, yeah.
and there is an Indian working with him.
I only heard about this through a friend who recently contacted
Yeah,
both of
correct.
us. I spoke
So
to him yesterday and he told
yeah,
me. I found that really surprising.
yeah.
Who would have
So
thought?
And our first reaction is, oh my God, he's coaching Mo Salah. Because we know. So I was not even like talking about, I mean, asking about Carlos Queiroz. I was more interested about,
Yeah,
wow, there's Mo Salah in that team. So
incredible
that's
story.
something
But not
to
not many people know about this. If he hadn't told me, I wouldn't have even come across that. Amazing.
correct.
And now that you mentioned your brother's allegiance, does he think Oli should stay? Because they're going through a bit of another sticky patch, shall we say, with all that talent that a lot of people thought there might be.
My brother, so if you thought I was weird, I think he's weirder. So he thought, he thought Bangal should have stayed. He thought that project was not over then. He thought he needed another 2 years, and he would have really built the base, the foundation for United. And I think I agree where that is coming from. I know it was not the most attractive football,
No.
but he was slowly starting to get a few players in sync with the shape. He won the FA Cup, so they delivered a title and stuff like that. So I know Mourinho is a very attractive option, and which is why they went that route. But yeah, just kind of so that's where he stays. So with Ole and all, he doesn't care so much. He's just like he's not even sure. He has very controversial opinions about Bruno as well. He's like, I don't know whether Bruno fits that setup. I know he's a fabulous player, but
He's
when
the
he
one
exposes
that.
Fred and a McTominay, so it just how do you counter that? Because then there's Paul Pogba, who's a phenomenon, but like comes
Oh,
sometimes. Yeah.
he was
So very
incredible with
interesting takes
Mbappe
that
the other
way.
day for the French team. Unbelievable. But yeah,
Yeah.
United are coming to Leicester this Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that 3 o'clock kickoff.
Please win.
So, well,
And
you.
Leicester is short of a win, though. They're feeling
Well,
very
it's
dominated.
it's it's our defense. We just can't. I mean, that injury pre-season game for Fana knocked him out for over a year. I think that really hit us. And on top of that, Evans can't get this rid of this injury as well. So he's a bedrock. Evans is the one. He's the
Yeah.
brains. He hasn't got the pace or anything, but he's the brains in defense. And
Correct.
what you found that he made others look good. If Evans is there, Fofana looks good, Soyuncu looks good, no matter who plays next to him. So that defense is where the problem lies. I mean, we threw away a 2-0 lead to 4 goals last week against Palace.
And I think Palace should have won, Dave. You were
Yeah, to be
they played
fair,
you. Yeah.
in the first half, they were a far better team than us,
Yeah.
and the 2 goals were pretty much our only 2 shots. So it's defensively that's the problem, and Vestergaard is still getting used to. I think he didn't expect to play so many games as soon as he came in, but it's the issue with Evans, and Vestergaard in a way has to try and support Soyuncu, who's always got a mistake in him. I like him, but he needs a sort of an Evans
The
sort
David
of.
Lewis sort of a player.
Yeah, well, but
No, I think David Lewis on his day was a brilliant defender. That was one of my favorite defenders to watch. Like
really,
so comfortable on the ball, and he always turned up for big matches. A lot of people don't understand that. Champions League, whatever. If it's a big match, this guy puts in a big performance. One of my favorite footballers too. Well, I mean, I'm really waiting for him to retire so that I can write like a long piece on what a fascinating character this is. Like for me, talking about David Lewis is like talking about
was he a defender or was he a midfielder?
a defender. I don't. All these English arguments about it's just because he can play ball, he should have played. It's uh, ridiculous because in certain setups, I think
No,
with
but
Conte as well, you saw that when he was in a libero sort of a role, when he had like two other defenders with him, he was
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah,
He
he can't
was.
play in a
So
four
I
though.
mean, yeah, I think maybe if he had the right coach who could discipline him into doing that, maybe he would have. But I think he never found that stability anywhere. We talked about Thiago Silva. And Thiago Silva is one of the greatest, and not just because he's at Chelsea. Right, I've always admired him. But in terms of talent-wise, I thought those two were a remarkable pair. And then, to be really honest, I can't really think of a really nice centre back pairing for Brazil. That was one area where they kind of
Yeah,
lacked. They always
always.
had great attackers and wing backs.
Never ever had
Centre back,
decent goalkeepers either. Now look,
yeah. Now it's just so much talent there. But like I thought with Thiago Silva and David Lewis, they had found the perfect pairing. but sort of.
But
So for
Thiago, I
me,
do rate. Thiago, I do rate. He's a proper old school defender. He knows his stuff. But with Luis, oh, would you bet your
I think
house on
with
him?
Lewis is
Not.
that he sort of gives that extra. He wants to dribble it out of the defense sometimes, and so you need a I think a John Terry sort of a figure, Thiago Silva sort of
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
always next to him, sort of. But like if you have that, and if you can get the footballer out of David Luiz, I thought it was a
Oh,
very
as a
good one.
footballer, yeah, you can't say. But it was just the inconsistent and sometimes temperament, but yeah, I suppose you get that with some players. But viewers and listeners, you see how it comes back to Chelsea. Always comes back to
Chelsea all the
Chelsea, no
time.
matter which club I'm talking about. Even if it's my beloved Leicester, somehow we end up talking about the other blue club in
I think
London.
Soyuncu to David Luiz is I think unfair. I think Soyuncu's done that good.
Not yet. He's got time. He's got time. But listen, Nevin, it's been as far as Indian football's concerned, depressing week. Very, very depressing watches. I'm not
It's
sure
like the
about
sky
today.
outside.
Sorry?
It's
Yes,
like the sky
yes, of
outside.
course, yeah.
Very
Um,
grey and murky.
but you've cheered me up a little bit by getting out all this out of my system and getting to have a bit of a conversation and
I think
all.
this was a rant episode more than a
Well, it
more
was
than
a bit of a
a
therapy
discussion.
session as well. I've got it out of my system,
Yeah.
so until I watch the game today, then will come flooding back. But we'll see. But
Stay away, my friend. Don't do it to
I
yourself.
don't a sucker for punishment, I suppose. It's
Yeah.
being an Indian football supporter and trying to live the dream that's not coming true anyway soon. Anyway, but
I think I saw a good conclusion statement. I guess I think I saw a tweet saying, "Yeah, India are the sleeping giants. Like, we've been sleeping and we're still sleeping."
we're
So we
living through
refuse to
it.
wake up. We refuse to wake up.
Yeah, but we're sleeping and we're watching a nightmare. It's not a dream; it's a
Yeah,
nightmare. So, yeah,
correct.
good analogy to end with. We will wake up soon. We live in that hope. But as always, great company, and time flies when I speak to you, and it makes my Sunday. So, thank you again, my friend, and I'm sure we'll catch up again very soon.
Absolutely.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.